everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for April 17th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I am here today on my own to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother Canada 10 live feeds. It was day 50 in the house. Day 50 in the house. And it's a quick one here today. The majority of the intrigue is happening sort of as we speak, as we are talking through what may happen because of the veto results. But we do have veto results for you today, and that's really the bulk of what I've got for you today. So we'll make this a quick one here, quite the quick one here, as we run through some of the events of yesterday, just to get you caught up to where we are today, so that by tomorrow we'll be able to hopefully have something intriguing, if it's not already kind of locked in. But we will see. We will see where we're at here for the Big Brother Canada 10. So it was day 50 in the house. Marty is the HOH. He has nominated Josh and Betty for eviction. But there's a lot of things happening here, right? The veto could change things a lot. Summer was given safety by Canada, which means that if the veto is used, somebody from the five, meaning Gino, Jace, Helena, or Kevin, will have to be the replacement. So that's the big thing with the veto here. Throughout the morning, there's just kind of general chit chat about the veto. Ultimately, Gino, Summer, and Kevin are chosen to play in the veto. Marty picked Kevin to play, which was weird. Jace and Gino were pretty annoyed about it, feeling like Marty was lying about how close he was to Kevin. And Gino said that Marty had told him the night before that Kevin would be the replacement nominee. So what's up with that? Yes, Gino had already been picked, which sort of helped. But in terms of like explaining it, but Jace was still annoyed that, like, hey, why wasn't I chosen? Why was Kevin chosen? Is Marty lying to us about how close he is to Kevin? Marty had been pitching a final four that excluded Kevin. There's a big thing that we did not really get to see, that has been impacting this week significantly, which is that, and we talked about it yesterday, that Marty seemingly caught Kevin talking game with Josh at some point, and then Kevin lied about it. So something like that happened. And so ever since then, Marty has been very concerned that Kevin is secretly working with Josh and feels like he might not be able to trust him. And I think because of that, he's been pitching a final four to exclude Kevin from the five. And so then he goes and picks Kevin for the veto. And Jace is like, what the hell is Marty lying to us? Right. So they don't know if Marty is lying about Kevin being the potential renom. And Jace and Gino are kind of upset about this whole thing. Kevin and Helena, in the meantime, are going to talk about how Marty is pitching a final four that excludes Kevin. And Helena didn't even know about this final four being pitched. She wasn't aware of it, and she's annoyed at Marty. She lets Kevin know because she had a conversation with Jace, saying that where Jace let her know, like they know about the power now, and Jace let Helena know that Gino let Marty know about the power, and all of this stuff, right? So they know that the power is being used to help keep Marty aware of the fact that the showmance was not going to turn on them. And this power thing has really also thrown a wrench into their whole plans. Kevin would love to use the veto if he wins it. Kevin is playing in the veto. Kevin says that if he wins, he's like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going for it. I'm just gonna use it. Screw everyone, and hopefully force like Jace on the block, and we can get Jace out. What else are we gonna do at this point? After Kevin leaves, Helena says to the cameras, like, I think I'm sharing too much with Kevin, but whatever at this point. Like, it's too late to turn back. Marty's going to talk to Kevin. Marty tells Kevin he won't put him up as the replacement. He promises, I will not be putting you up as the replacement nominee. Don't worry about it. So it's kind of where we're at prior to the veto. And it's really like trying to get through the events of yesterday right now when the actual things are happening as we speak is quite difficult. Again, we're going to make this a short one. But we're going to get to the veto competition. Kevin, Summer, Gino, Josh, and Betty competing. And uh-oh.
This is Business B. Let's get it.
Business B finally got it. Betty won the veto. Betty wins. Big news. Huge for Betty's game. Betty will be taking herself off the block, which is potentially very bad for Josh, who will potentially get screwed by the fact that Summer cannot be the replacement. Therefore, it must be Kevin, Helena, Jace, or Gino. If it's Kevin or Helena, chances are good that Josh would end up leaving. And just like that, it could be the end of Josh's game. So we will see where things go there. In the veto competition, they got some messages from home. That was part of it. Gino and Jace are going to talk afterward about how, hey, we need to try to avoid going on the block. They said that, Marty was telling Gino that Kevin would be the replacement. So they feel like they should push for Kevin to be the replacement. Gino feels like that's sort of the way to go. So Jace says, all right, like we'll go there. That's like the veto. The feeds were down for a very long time last night for the veto competition. By the time they came back up, there wasn't much left to see, and what there was left to see, we didn't get to see because the feeds cut again for various conversations. So that's it from day 50. That's what I've got for you. I'm going to now push into day 51 a little bit, which is this morning, which is things that are happening, an hour and a half ago to, 15 minutes ago. Because this is sort of the bigger news, the bigger stuff here, the things that actually matter. The reason I reset you on Marty wondering about Kevin working with Josh is because that's heavily factoring in to what we may see with Marty's decision for a renom, with Betty taking herself off the block, Summer off the table. Again, one of Kevin, Helena, Jace, or Gino needs to go up. So this morning, Kevin talked to Marty, who again promised him he would not go up on the block. He told Kevin that it would be Helena or Jace that go up on the block. Kevin said, "That's great, Marty. I love you. I'm going to the end with you. That's where I'm at with you." Really buttering Marty up. After Kevin leaves this conversation, Marty says to the cameras, "I love Kevin, but I'm not sure I can trust him. I'm concerned that he's working with Josh. I caught him talking game with Josh. He was being so awkward. I think he's secretly working with Josh. I think he will flip the vote if he's not on the block. And I've been suspicious that Helena is also working with Josh for a long time. Very concerned about that. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do." Thanks, Marty. So that's where Marty was standing there. Kevin talked to Helena afterward. He was like, "This is not looking great, but let's see what we can do." Marty is talking to Helena right now and letting her know that he's suspicious of Kevin. and that he thinks Kevin needs to be on the block in order for the vote to not flip. Helena, I believe, granted, I'm not able to see much of this conversation because I'm talking to you all here, but I believe Helena is pushing back at least a little bit. One of the distracting things is that I'm seeing people say that Marty even mentioned that, hey, if Kevin ends up leaving, whatever, right? So who knows? I have to go into speculation mode because, again, like the important conversations are happening right now. I can't watch them, so tune in tomorrow for the true discussion on them. But obviously, if Kevin goes up on the block, Summer and Betty would be voting Kevin out, which means that, or would likely be voting Kevin out, which means that Helena, Gino, and Jace would need to vote to keep Kevin in the game. That seems pretty likely to me. The idea that they would flip to take Kevin out doesn't seem super likely. Again, I'm not seeing the conversation, and I know that Marty is a wild card, but oh man, Marty is too much of a wild card. Maybe he would go after Kevin. And then I would say that Gino and Jace don't have incentive to flip either, but if Marty tells them to, they might just do it because that's just them sometimes. And they might still feel like they can work with Josh, right? So it's possible. It's possible that Kevin leaves this week. It is definitely possible. So that's kind of where we are. We could see Kevin on the block. We could see Kevin even leaving this week. We could also see instead Josh leaving. Either way, one of them will have been at least a little bit screwed by this twist here. But either way, we are likely going to see Josh or Kevin leave. However, there is still a chance that they have some time to turn this around. Of course, it is Sunday, and the veto ceremony won't be until Monday. So there is still a full day of trying to turn this around. But it seems like Kevin is just completely tanked with Marty at this point. That one conversation that he got caught talking game with Josh has just completely lost him here with Marty, and he seems to have no sway over Marty whatsoever. Helena is trying, I believe, but she also seems to have very little sway with Marty. Again, that power last week, giving Jace and Gino the ability to say, hey, we had the power to secretly, betray you, and we chose not to, has given them tons of credit on top of the fact that Marty is in love with Gino in the first place. And so they are looking okay here. So definitely some things to watch out for as we move forward into tomorrow, whether the Kevin renom will be locked in place and whether or not, Kevin will potentially go home. It would require some strange decision making, but with Marty, that's what you get sometimes. So that's where we are. Any questions before we wrap this up? Because again, it is a quick one here, as most of the important information is coming at us this morning. It's certainly I imagine not great for the stocks going on here. Great for Betty stocks, I think, unless Josh leaves. Then maybe not great for Betty stocks. Who should Marty have targeted? I mean, it's honestly, Kevin isn't the worst target for Marty. The thing is that, like, another thing to point out, actually, that's a good question, because another thing to point out is that Marty continues to lose respect from the rest of the house. That Summer and Betty are both now pretty firmly, and Josh getting on this train, on the train of like, we are not going to vote for Marty in the end. It doesn't matter what he does, how he gets there. We're not voting for him. Just the way that he's operating, they don't have any respect for it. It's we're getting to the point where it's feeling very like he's giving his game to Gino, which is the least of his crimes, but it's not a very respectable strategy. So even if you were like, hey, he's being a jerk, and we don't like the way that he operates, and it feels very icky. But at least he's using good strategy. It's like that's not really the case either. So he is definitely not looking great for the jury here. So we'll see. We'll see where all of that goes. Will Gino still go after Marty? If Josh goes, I think there's a decent chance, especially in a triple, that Gino, if Gino won the triple, he puts up like Summer Betty Marty, or something along those lines. Now they did talk about potentially Helena as well, but it would not surprise me if they put Marty up. They're still not super big fans of Marty. Like even in private conversations, they're still a little bit like, Marty. But they are certainly like happy that he's keeping them safe this week for now. But I'm sure they also will recognize that, like, honestly, the fact that it's a triple could actually help Marty because it wouldn't give them enough time to like come to the conclusion that they should betray Marty. But it's definitely a huge option for them. If Kevin goes up, who I think Josh will go ahead of Kevin. Again, I haven't seen the conversation between Marty and Helena where he talked about Kevin leaving, but my guess is that Josh would be the one to go over Kevin, but I don't think it's impossible that Kevin leaves either. That's exactly it. Well, yeah, because Marty is very much the Kyland of the season right now in terms of his strategy. Let's see. Anything else? Predictions for the triple? I mean, it really depends on who wins. I mean, the reality of it is that regardless of who leaves this week, it should be a 4v2 in the HOH. It should be Betty, Summer, Helena, and Kevin or Josh versus Jason, Gino. Now, Jason, Gino, between the two of them have what, like four wins, 4 or 5 wins, and then Betty, Summer, Helena, and Josh and or Kevin would have a combined like 3 at best. So we'll see. It probably heavily depends on what the competition is, how even a spread it could be, but it will likely be 4v2, and then if any of the 4 win, it's probably Gino, Jace, Marty on the block, or something along those lines at this point, especially if Kevin goes up. And then if Jace or Gino win, again, it would likely be something, probably like Summer, Betty, maybe Marty, maybe Helena, maybe Marty is a backdoor if the veto is won, something along those lines. So those would be my 2 different predictions as of right now. Again, things could very much change depending on what happens with Kevin going up on the block. Do I think Betty's chances of winning go up after this week? Certainly, winning a veto competition to save her life, huge, especially this late in the game. Also proving that she can win a competition. She's performed pretty well in various competitions, but she hasn't been able to pull it out yet. So yeah, I think winning competitions is exactly the criteria she needs to win. Now, if Kevin left instead of Josh, that would be very huge for her. Josh leaving, not great. There are some upsides in that Josh would probably have beat her in the end, and she probably would have taken Josh. But losing Josh is still pretty bad. We're not quite at the point yet where that would be a pure positive for her here at the final 8. So We'll see. We'll see. Can Kevin talk his way off the block? It feels like he's run out of runway here. It feels like he has run out of influence. He's always. I mean, the thing is, it's always been an uphill battle. It's always been an uphill climb for Kevin to have the amount of influence that he did. And it feels as though he has finally run out of influence. His game is starting to unravel in front of him, and it all seems to have stemmed from just that one getting caught talking game to Josh moment. So we will see. All right, okay. All right, that's what I got. It's again. We've until we got more concrete info, we're really just in speculation mode. So I will be back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother Canada 10 live feeds. And I will be able to hopefully fill you in on exactly what will be happening with the veto ceremony that will be happening that day. And then also like what could potentially happen with the vote between Josh and Kevin, if Kevin is the one that will be going up on the block. And then we'll see what happens with the rest of the week. But basically, as per usual, this triple eviction will likely just straight up decide the season. Whoever wins that HOH will basically decide who wins the season. So we will have to wait and see on Thursday night what happens. But that's what I've got for you. Hopefully you enjoyed this brief live feed update. We're really starting to get down to it, and we're getting less and less in terms of actual content, at least prior to this moment, for on the feed. So we'll see what happens. You can find me over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong, watching tomorrow night's episode with all of you live. And then after the episode, we'll be live to recap what happens in the episode. So make sure you tune in for that here on RHAP as a podcast. I'll also be playing some Goose Goose Duck with the crew over on Twitch today at around 5 p.m. Eastern. If you want to come hang out and watch us lie and murder each other, lie to and murder each other, I guess would be the way to say that. And check out the Taran show with Gabby this week. Got another one coming up very soon for you, so make sure you check that one out when it comes. And find me over on Twitter at Armstrong Taran. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I'll see you all next time.